This video is going to be slightly different than the usual because this time I'm not making a guide, I'm not making a combat showcase video, which is usually the things that I do, but I'm doing a kind of review and meta-analysis of the game right now. This is a topic that I want to cover for a really long time, basically since the 1.4, but I think that right now, after the 1.6 special program, it's a good moment to actually talk about this. And if by meta-analysis you think that I'm going to say something like, we are in an attacker meta, and trying to be as nice as possible and not using like harsh words here, but you're wrong. And I see like a lot of videos saying this kind of thing. It simply doesn't exist, because Zone Zero is not a game about having an attacker meta. It's not a game about having an anomaly meta. If anything, anomaly is the last thing that is going to leave the meta because of how complex it actually is. The game that we have right now is like a completely different game. The 1.0 version and after 1.4 are like two different games. The 1.4 was like the turning point both for me and for the game itself as well, because you see this. This is like Zenless Zero version 1.0. Here's what happened to the game. It doesn't exist anymore. I'm pretty sure that around the 1.2, Zenless Zero started to change the direction it wanted to take. And I'm saying this, and you can actually see most of these things by looking at the characters that Hoyo is releasing since the 1.2. Because the characters that we had back in 1.0, they lack something. And something that characters right now are simply replacing it. This is exactly why we had the huge power creep situation a few patches ago. And yes, I'm talking about Miyabi and Alan. Because yes, there is a power creep problem, but the problem itself is not only about having a unit that is going to have enough damage to power creep someone else. This is not Honkai Star Rail. This is Zenless Zero, and right now we have a lot of room for skill expression, which is something that we don't have in Honkai Star Rail, for example. That's why the power creep problem on Honkai Star Rail is way worse than what we have here on Zenless Zero. You're probably ready to scroll down and say that Miyabi versus Alan situation was just as bad as any power creep you can imagine, because imagine having a character that even at Mindscape 6 can hit the damage potential of Miyabi at Mindscape 0. And I agree with you. But this is not a problem about raw multiplier values. This is not a problem of just having a unit that is going to deal the more damage. This is a problem that followed the game since the release. And that's exactly why they had to scrap 1.0. To give you some extra context, let's roll back all the way to 1.0 and think about how the game used to feel. If you are a day one player, then you probably remember how players used to complain about the TV mode. Another problem that I'm pretty sure that you remember is the fact that a lot of players, a lot of streamers used to say that Zenless Zero combat experience was pretty much mashing down your basic attack button. Because that's all you had to do to clear all the story content, that's all you had to do to clear the end game content as well. The combat lacks depth. So the problem that we have with 1.0, 1.1 characters is that these are characters that lack depth. You don't have a lot of room for skill expression because the characters themselves, they just play like you're playing a spreadsheet game. It's all about getting the best disc stats and the best disc stats for your build, going into shield defense, going into deadly assault, and trying to deal as much damage as you can. And this is a problem for the game, because characters like this, characters like Alan, characters like Juyuan, they simply lack skill expression. It doesn't matter how well you play Alan, at the end of the day, she's just an attacker that wants to use charger dash attacks, get stacks, and then use basic attacks with the flash freeze charges. That's how Alan plays at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how well you try to change and optimize your G1 rotation. At the end of the day, you're just playing a character that wants someone to stun the enemy, and you want to discharge all your bullets in the stun window as fast as possible. But there's simply no way for you to get some extra skill expression here. And that's the issue that we have with most characters of the 1.0. They had to fix, otherwise at the long run, all we're going to get is like power creeps. Miyabi was going to power creep Alan, and Miyabi as a basic character with the lack of depth, it was going to get power crept by another unit in the long run. That's how the game was going to be. But right now, for example, I can easily say that Miyabi can stay all the way to 3.0 and it's still going to be a viable character. I can look at Evelyn and still say that until the half of the 2-point patches, she's still going to be a viable DPS. They allow you to put some extra effort and get better damage potential by doing so. I'm not saying that they are hard characters to play. They are super easy characters for you to play. As soon as you put these characters on the field, you can understand exactly how you're going to deal damage. But if you can optimize things like play around build up and get the maximum charges for Miyabi, if you can optimize stacking resources and trying to do chain combos on the stun window, you're going to see a difference in your damage potential with Evelyn, with Miyabi, with a lot of these characters. And this is something that you simply don't have with Ellen. You don't have the same feeling with Ju-1. I own Ju-1 but Mindscape 1, and for me she's one of the most boring characters to play. I don't like playing Ju-1. You always feel that you are like in the maximum potential, and the only thing that you can do to increase the damage output is getting better discs. This is bad for the game. So that's exactly why they had to fix this by killing these characters. And trust me when I say that this is something really sad. I am saying this, and even though I like these characters, the fact that this even existed at the first place, Ellen and Ju-1, for example, it just makes me really sad. Because at the long run, there's simply no reason for you at all to pull Ellen. There's no reason at all for you to pull Ju-1, because somewhere in the long run, Ju-1 is going to get replaced as well. Not to mention that we're getting an Anomaly Ether unit in 1.7. You probably watched the 1.6 special program, but we're getting this new disc set here. And just like Astra with Astral Voice, I feel that this is going to be exactly the same thing with Phaeton's Melody and a new character that we're getting in 1.7. Because if you take a look here on the disc set, it's basically an Anomaly set for Ether characters. You can use this on Nicole for sure, but when you come to think about it, it is not made for Nicole. It's probably going to be for someone else. Now, I can't say for sure if it's going to be like an off-field character or it's going to be a burst Anomaly unit, because buff duration only lasts for 8 seconds. So it's either going to be someone who can keep building Anomaly to the enemy while it's off-field, or it's going to be someone who can enter the field right after triggering this effect here and burst a lot of build-up on the enemy. That's how it's going to be. But anyway, back to the point. Is this new Ether unit going to Powercreep Ju-1? We can say for sure. We can say for sure, and since we're getting Ju-1 at the second half of the 1.6, if you're planning to pull Ju-1 because she's your waifu, you want your character, go ahead. I'm not going to say you shouldn't pull her. But if you're pulling Ju-1 because you want an Ether DPS, maybe it's better for you to wait until we see what this new Ether character is going to bring to the game. Because just like Miyabi and Ellen, it could happen the same thing with Ju-1. Ju-1 on 1.7 getting completely replaced by a new unit. Because once again, Ju-1 lacks the skill expression. She lacks depth. You're not getting like a lot of value by spending your time and trying to optimize your rotation. You're not getting that shit, which is super sad actually. So Zenless on 0 before 1.2, I would say that the second half of 1.2, because Caesar, Qingyi, and Jane somewhat, they have some issues, you know? If you take a look at the game that started after Burnies, it's a game that wants you to play around team compositions instead of just playing characters, you know? Instead of playing, let's say, the classic Ju-1, instead of playing the classic Ju-1, a stunner, and a support unit. Because this is the classic team composition that you used to see back in the 1.0, you know? Instead of Ju-1, you could use Billy, and there you go. It's going to be like pretty much the same thing. It's always like an attacker unit, a stunner, and a support. Classic team composition. But it gets stale after time. That's exactly why Burnies changed the game. From Burnies onward, the game completely changed. First, because we're finally getting an Anomaly unit that stays out of the field. And this is something that I mentioned since my 1.2 pull value analysis video. Burnies is the first of a kind, the first of an off-field character that can deal damage and apply build-up to the enemy while not staying on the field. So characters like Jane, for example, they can play alongside Bernice because you're not removing Jane field time, which she loves, by the way, and you're still going to get access to extra damage with Bernice. You're still going to get extra damage from a possible disorder trigger. So Bernice started to change the game. From the second half of the 1.2 all the way to the game that we have right now, the game interaction completely changed. You see, you could play one of the team composition that I still use up to today, Piper, Lucy, and Bernice. And this is actually somewhat 3 damage dealers, because even Lucy, she actually has a lot of damage potential. So you have Piper, which is dealing damage, we have Bernice, which is also dealing damage, and then you have Lucy, which is both supporting these units and also dealing some damage herself. The point here is that we are moving away from having single agent team compositions, hyper carry team compositions, and start diving into a more team-based game. Let's take a look on Miyabi, for example. If I take a look on Miyabi, you're going to see that one of the best teams that we have right now is like Miyabi, Astra, Miyabi, and Nicole. But at the same time, you can still play, for example, Miyabi, Yanagi, and Astra, and it's still going to be a super strong team. But the way that you play those teams, they are different ways, because Yanagi is going to be an Anomaly unit, and she's also going to get easy access to disorders, which allows Miyabi to just keep slashing over and over again. But if you try to play around Nicole, for example, things get slightly harder. You need to understand build-up, try to manage build-up everything properly, otherwise you're not going to get these extra stacks that Miyabi can easily get with disorder triggers. You see? So things like this, it allows you to play around team compositions instead of simply playing around a specific character. So this is an issue that characters from 1.0 actually have, that is this lack of depth. They want you to play around them instead of building a team around them. Right now in the game, especially in the 1.6, you probably watched the 1.6 special program, right? But let's focus on those 2 characters. Let's forget about MB for some time, and let's focus only on Pulcra and on Trigger. What they are going to be: off-field stunner units. The key word here is off-field. They are units that are going to be slotted in your team, but you're not going to play them at all. They are going to provide you with damage and base potential, but they are going to stay out of the field. You're going to be playing, let's say, Soldier Ambi, but Soldier Ambi is going to benefit from Pulcra or Trigger, and you don't even need to swap to Pulcra to swap to Trigger. They're just going to give you free damage and base potential. And that's exactly why I've been slacking off with my uploads for some time already, because I've been reworking my calculator. You see, this calculator here that I made on the 1.1, yep, it was on the 1.1. Jane was the first character that I used this calculator with. This calculator is the one that I'm still using up to today, but I promised myself to avoid making calculations. That's why I've been slacking off with some guides, with some numbers, spreadsheets, videos, because I'm rewriting everything from scratch. Instead of using this calculator, I'm starting a new one, which allows you to have better team calculations instead of just single agent calculations, because this is one of the huge problems with this calculator that I made in 1.1. It only focuses on a single unit. It's a calculator that is basically made for you to find the best disk stats and roles for a single character. But when you're playing around team compositions, you have a lot of other things to take into account. Damage potential of other units, the base potential of other units, the buffs they are going to provide, and things like this. You see, for example, I could easily say that if you're playing, for example, Evelyn with Lighter, you should run Penetration, which is something that I even showcased on my pull value video for Evelyn. You see it right here? Yes, Penetration is really good with Lighter. But the moment that you add Nicole to the equation, well, Nicole with the defense thread, it is going to lower the value of penetration, to say like this. So it is not going to be the same thing. If you put a penetration disc on Evelyn and you're playing with Nicole on your team, you're probably losing damage potential, which is a problem. So what I'm trying to say is that ZZZ is moving away from the idea of playing around characters and instead you should play around team compositions. This is the game that Zenless on Zero is right now. And I'm super happy with it because it allows you to have a lot of skill expression. Let's take a look, for example, on the data that Pridewind gathers. This is not updated. This is like from 2 weeks ago. But if you take a look here, for example, 2 weeks ago, the previous Shio rotation, for example, we have a 1 minute 30 second clears with Miyabi on average, 1 minute 56 second clears with Evelyn. Even if we include like all the way to Mindscape 6 characters, we have 1 minute 7 seconds with Miyabi, 1 minute 23 seconds with Evelyn. But you're going to take a look at my clear, 50 seconds, and this is like only Evelyn and Miyabi with their signature weapons. Yanagi and Astra are using like free-to-play weapons. And I'm not saying this to flex, you know, it's just to showcase that skill expression exists right now. So this is only the average, you know. Imagine how huge the gap actually is. It could go all the way from 30 seconds to 2.5 minutes. You see, that's how huge the gap can actually be. And if you take a look on Deadly Assault, for example, because here the damage difference is like even bigger. Take a look, for example, on Dead and Butcher. Dead and Butcher, 24,000k with 24,000 points with Miyabi. Typhon Destroyer, we have 23,000 points with Evelyn. And Marionette, we have 20,000 points with Juju1. Now, my Juju1 is my Escape 1, of course. But even if you take a look here, for example, on my Miyabi clear, 45,000 points. Typhon Destroyer, almost 35,000 points. And Marionette, if you take a look here, oops, way too much, 40,000 points. Now, my Juju1 is my Escape 1, once again, just to remind you. You can see how huge the difference is here. This is, once again, only the average of more than 5,000 players, but imagine how huge the gap can be. For example, if you take a look at Miyabi, an average of 24,000 points. I'm pretty sure that there are players who are actually not hitting 3 stars with Miyabi on Dead and Butcher. I'm pretty sure. But there are also players who are pushing all the way to 40,000 points. So, when you come to think, for example, about being future-proof and getting the best value with your characters, I would say that all characters after Burnies, they are actually really good characters for you. Maybe not Harumasa, and of course, maybe not Lighter. But the reason for this is because Harumasa has a bit of a problem, which is he's a character for players that want to find a challenge. While I don't actually like this kind of thing because I feel that you're gatekeeping a lot of players for playing this character, I think it's fine to have like, he's a one of kind. None of the other characters available in the game is like as hard as Harumasa to play. Lighter has a bit of a problem, that is, has like a lot of value in fire and ice team compositions. But outside of fire and ice team compositions, the value he's going to provide is like minimal. So if you compare, for example, with Trigger, Trigger can work with fire characters, with ice characters, with any attribute character, with on-field, off-field units, she's going to work. If you don't like playing fire and ice units, then why exactly would you pull Lighter? But if you like playing it, then Lighter value is completely insane. Lighter value is simply insane for fire and ice characters. When you compare Trigger with Qingyi, I know that I said that Trigger was not going to power creep Qingyi, but from a flexibility, from a general value for any team composition, Trigger is actually better than Qingyi. That's because Qingyi requires quite a lot of field time. So at the end of the day, you can't play, for example, Qingyi with, let's say, Soldier 11. You're not going to play those two together. Because the moment that you decide to move Soldier 11 away from the field, you are losing damage. Qingyi is not going to deal a lot of damage like Soldier 11 levels of damage. No, she's not. So the moment that you move Soldier 11 away from the field, you are losing damage. So it's better for you to simply let Soldier 11 stay on the field and instead forget about Qingyi. So this is a problem with Qingyi. She's only going to work with burst-related characters. Let's say Ju1, for example. Anton works pretty well. You could use Billy, for example. All these characters, they work pretty well with Qingyi. Quite sad moment for Qingyi because of how general Trigger can actually be. Of course, Astra is like the huge core of quick swap playstyle because of a lot of quick assists she's going to provide for you. Now Caesar, honestly, Caesar deserves a whole video about her because, oh my gosh, Caesar is actually quite sad, you know. Caesar is actually super sad. So basically what I'm trying to say for you is that the combat right now feels super rewarding because of these new characters, this new style of characters that you're getting. Characters that have some kind of depth to them, that allows you to build team compositions around them instead of just having raw damage units like Alan, like G1, and things like this. The amount of skill expression you have with these characters is like minimal, but characters like Yanagi, Miyabi, Evelyn, probably Soldier Embi as well, it's just really good, and it allows you to put some extra effort and feel rewarded by doing so. You see? When Deadly Assault actually released, I was like super pissed off because you're only getting like 300 polychromes and only 6-star, and I was like, oh, no way I'm going to push like better scores on Deadly Assault if at the end of the day I'm only getting like 300 polychromes, you know? And I'm pretty sure that if you are a casual player, you're only focusing on getting these polychromes, that's all you're looking for, right? But after playing Deadly Assault for a bit, I started to enjoy it quite a lot, actually. You can see that I'm trying to push, like challenge myself and make crazy things like this because I actually enjoy the combat experience here. I actually enjoy trying to challenge myself and get 3 stars with this. And this is not going to be for everyone, I'm pretty sure. If you are a casual, chances are you're just looking to get your 6-star, your polychromes, and that's it, bye-bye. You see? If you are in shield defense, you're not going to try to speed run shield defense or get fast clears, because at the end of the day, you have like 5 minutes to get all your polychrome rewards. 5 minutes is still super easy. So that's why I say that Zenless on Zero is like doing a really great job on trying to please both casual and players that enjoy some extra combat experience, you see? Because even if you take a look, for example, here on the tower, you're going to see that the tower polychrome rewards stop, where is it? Here, floor 15. That's all you need to do if you're looking for some extra polychromes. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go all the way to floor 20, floor 50, get Demon Lord medals, things like this. It doesn't even matter for you, because all you need to do is get up to floor 15. After floor 15, you're only getting like Denny's, you're only getting Master Disc tapes, then only Denny's, and it keeps getting lower, as you can see. It keeps lowering down. 5,000 Denny's, that's all I'm getting for clearing floors after floor 50. I really would love to get some extra reward by pushing the limits, you know. I was planning to go all the way to floor 100, only getting like Demon Lord medals, but it's fine, you know. The combat experience itself feels rewarding right now, which is something that I didn't feel back in the 1.0. There was no challenge at all. There was no skill expression. So they had to make these changes to the game, and I'm super sorry for Alan. But the reason why Alan Powercreep existed and was like super harsh is because of a design change. The whole game changed direction after 1.4. Stunners start to get like way more value right now because of the fact that they have access to ultimates. You can get a faster second stun window because now, instead of simply using your DPS ultimate and that's it, charge your ultimate once again, you can now use your DPS ultimate on the stun window, and then right after the enemy recovers from stun, you can use your stunner ultimate to deal a lot of days and get a second stun window as fast as possible. So this kind of thing completely changed the value of some units. You see, instead of focusing on the maximum damage potential that you can deal with a single unit, you now have a whole team to play around. You have support units to use the ultimate as well. For example, Lucy, damage potential, insanely good. Nicole, for example, a lot of debuffs, super fast ultimate animation, and things like this. We have Slowkaku, which I don't even know what to say about her. I could say that Slowkaku has access to a lot of damage on the ultimate, and yeah, that's true, but when you come to think about all the time she's going to take it, why I'm even using Slowkaku ultimate, you see? But this is like a decision right now. We feel that at the end of the day, we're moving away from the idea of playing a spreadsheet game, you know, just getting better disc stats, and slotting the unit that you need and get damage potential. We are moving away from this idea, and instead we need to play around better team compositions, you see. That's it, what I want to talk about today. Game situation analysis, game review, meta review that we are having right now. And characters like Pulchra and Trigger, they're definitely going to add a lot of value for the game. I'm pretty sure that if you are in the free-to-play and you want to get the most of any DPS unit, this is including like 1.0 units as well, Trigger is going to offer you way more value than trying to pull Soldier Ambi. All right, we got Harumasa for free on 1.4. You know, go give it a chance, try to play around him. I'm pretty sure that Soldier Ambi can actually be a skip for you if you're just trying to pull because you need electric damage coverage. Not to mention that we're getting closer to Yanagi rerun, for example, in the next few patches. So who knows? Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you want to, feel free to join my Discord server, where I usually talk about things like this, and I also offer some help and advice for builds, thing compositions, deadly assault, clears, things like this. Link is down in the description. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in my next video. See ya.